Hello and welcome to Virtuosity. I'm Corey, co-founder of Virtuosity, and I'll be leading you through this introduction to humility. Picture a room of 100 people. 95 of them will raise their hand when asked, "Are you self-aware?" But research says only 10 to 15 of them actually are. The rest, they're convinced they see themselves clearly, when in fact, they're staring in a distorted mirror. That's the finding of organizational psychologist Tasha Eurich, who spent years studying self-awareness in leaders and teams. Her work shows us just how easily our perception betrays us, and how confident we can feel while being completely wrong. We tend to assume character works like fine wine. The older we get, the stronger it becomes. Experience should make us wiser, steadier, more grounded, but humility tells a different story. As people rise in status and success, humility doesn't always grow. It can wither, it can atrophy. Power insulates, praise inflates, success deceives. The higher we climb, the more distorted the mirror can become. Titles polish the glass, accolades stretch the reflection, and little by little, humility, this anchor of clear perception, can erode. That's the danger. Humility isn't weakness, it's the discipline of seeing ourselves and others as they truly are. Without it, we risk losing the very perspective that growth depends on. Psychologist Carol Dweck calls this the growth mindset, the belief that we're never finished products, that ability and character can be continually developed. Humility is what makes that mindset possible, because only when we admit we don't have all the answers can we stay open enough to keep learning. So what do we really mean by humility? Humility is the recognition that none of us has all the answers, that our accomplishments speak loudest when we don't. It's acknowledging limitations, staying open to new perspectives, and embracing opportunities for growth and development. Those with humility understand they are not more important than others. They show respect for the strength and contributions of those around them, and they approach leadership not as a platform for self-importance, but as a responsibility to keep learning. And it's worth noting what humility is not. False humility hides behind avoidance, like declining to give the speech or present the findings, not out of modesty, but because we lack the courage or vulnerability to try. Humility isn't about shrinking back. It's about showing up with both confidence and openness, willing to contribute what we know while leaving room for what we don't. According to the Leader Character Framework, humility is made up of 8 core behaviors. Being a continuous learner, taking advantage of every opportunity to learn from others and actively seeking new ways to grow. Being curious, showing a genuine fascination with a wide range of topics, eager to explore new ideas and experiences with an open and non-judgmental attitude. Being grateful, expressing sincere appreciation for others' efforts and contributions, and feeling thankful for the things received in life. Being modest, letting personal accomplishments speak for themselves without calling undue attention to them. Being reflective, examining one's own assumptions and thinking habits to build more constructive patterns of thought and behavior. Being respectful, treating others with dignity, especially when giving feedback, and remaining tolerant, civil, and constructive. Being self-aware, recognizing how personal behavior impacts others, and staying mindful of one's own motives, values, and reactions. And being vulnerable, willing to admit mistakes, ask for help, and acknowledge what they don't know, creating space for growth. Imagine humility as a glass of water. When it's a strength, the glass is partly full, enough to recognize and share the rich knowledge and experience we bring, but with space left open for what we don't yet know. And that's the counterintuitive part. Like the glass, humility is strongest when it's not filled to the brim. That open space is what makes growth possible. It allows curiosity, reflection, and gratitude to flow in, keeping us learners no matter how much we achieve. With this balance, humility grounds us, reminding us that we can be both confident in our strengths and open to the strengths of others. When humility is underdeveloped, it's like a cup filled to the brim, water spilling over the edge. There's no room left for new learning, no space to admit mistakes, and no openness to the contributions of others. This is the deficient side, braggart, unaware, disinterested, and a certainty that blinds us to growth. Others experience us as closed off or self-important, and we miss the chance to expand our perspective. Humility grows strongest when it's supported by other dimensions of character. It takes courage to look squarely at who we are, strengths and limits, and name what needs to grow next. It takes drive to set high expectations for what's possible while staying open to what we don't yet know. It takes judgment to discern when to defer to others and when to trust our own perspective. Temperance steadies us, reminding us we can't change everything at once. Growth takes time, so we stay patient, calm, and self-controlled instead of rushing to defend or prove ourselves. And collaboration turns that openness into shared progress, making room for everyone's contribution to shape the result. And when humility tips into excess, it's like an empty cup. Nothing of our own gets poured out. Our experiences, our insights, our confidence. This is the excessive side, self-doubt and deferring too quickly to others. People can mistake it for lack of conviction, and the value we do bring is lost. That's when humility needs support from other dimensions. It takes courage to bring forward our strengths while still acknowledging what we may not yet know. It takes integrity to stand firm in the value of our own perspective and experiences. And it takes accountability to recognize that sharing our perspective matters, not just for ourselves, but for others who may benefit from it. That's why humility needs balance and support from the other dimensions. Too little humility is like a cup filled to the brim, leaving no room for growth. Too much is like an empty cup, forgetting the value of what we already know. But with the right measure, humility becomes the steadying strength that keeps us learners, partners, and leaders who never stop growing. It's making sure we're always pouring out just enough from our cup, so there's room for what we may not yet know. So now, take a moment to turn inward. What does it feel like when you're living the virtues of humility? When you stay curious, acknowledge your limitations, reflect on your assumptions, and express gratitude for others. How do you show up? How do others experience you? And how do you experience yourself? Of course, we all lose balance at times. When you do, which way do you tend to go? Do you lean toward deficiency, the overflowing cup so full of certainty and self-importance that there's no room for new learning? Or do you tip into excess, the empty cup, where self-doubt keeps you from sharing the knowledge and experience you do bring? When that happens, what does it look like in practice? What choices do you make? What ripple does it create for others and for you? Are there certain roles, situations, or stressors that tend to throw you off balance, nudging you too far in one direction? And if so, can you see the pattern? For me, the context of expertise dramatically shapes my humility. When I'm standing on ground I know well, I'm more likely to tip toward deficiency. My cup fills too high. I can feel myself rushing to pour out answers, eager to share what I know, but leaving little room for the voices and insights of others. In those moments, my certainty pushes out my curiosity, and my desire to be right overshadows my responsibility to do what's best. To support my humility in times like this, I need temperance, to slow down, to hold back just enough so others can pour into the cup as well. I need collaboration, to invite and elevate the perspectives around me. And I need courage, to resist the safety of what I already know and instead step into what I still have to learn. I see this pattern in my past too. I grew up in high-performance sports, shaping my identity around being the one who excelled. But when I retired from high-performance sport, I suddenly had room for something new. That shift was not easy. When I picked up new activities, even something as simple as trying a new sport, I hesitated. I wasn't comfortable with others seeing me as the one who struggled, the one who wasn't good. That realization jolted me into something important, embracing a new identity, not as the one who always achieves, but as the one who is always learning. To live into that identity, I needed courage, to allow myself to be seen in moments of vulnerability, to step into something new. It's the very combination Brené Brown often describes in her work, that courage and vulnerability are not opposites, but partners. I needed temperance to give myself time and grace in the learning process, and I needed transcendence to find joy even in the awkwardness of starting again. But there are also times when I tip too far in the other direction, into excess. It often happens when I'm outside of a position of authority and I tell myself my perspective doesn't matter. Or when I'm away from work, where so much of my worth has been tied. I begin to assume my voice carries less weight, that my experiences somehow don't count. Of course, that's less about how others actually see me and more about the story I project onto myself. In those moments, I need to lean on other dimensions to support my humility. I need courage again, to trust that what I bring is valuable. I need integrity to stand firmly in who I am and be proud to share it. And I need humanity to connect deeply with others, to tune in to what they are feeling, rather than letting my insecurities cloud the picture. The key is noticing when the cup is too full, when certainty crowds out curiosity, or when there's no room left to learn from others. And noticing when the cup is too empty, when self-doubt silences your voice, when modesty hides your contributions, or when you undervalue what you bring. The clearer you see where you are on that curve, deficiency on the left or excess on the right, the more skillfully you can adjust. Sometimes that means supporting your humility with temperance and collaboration, to be patient and inviting. Other times it means drawing on courage or integrity to speak up and stand firm. Humility isn't built in a single grand act. It's cultivated over time in the steady, often unnoticed choices to stay curious, to acknowledge limits, to express gratitude, and to keep learning even when it would be easier to cling to certainty. Humility, like a glass of water, reminds us that we need to leave a little room if we want to take in more. Too little and the cup overflows. Certainty leaves no space for growth. Too much and the cup sits empty. Our voice and contributions go missing. And while noticing those patterns matters, awareness alone isn't enough. To strengthen humility, we need more than reflection. We need practice, we need a system. That's what Virtuosity is built for. It's a training system that turns character into consistent practice, like a gym, but for who you are. You start small, one humility behavior, one simple act of curiosity, reflection, or gratitude. Then, Virtuosity walks you through bite-sized lessons and daily challenges that help you practice keeping space in your cup, emptying a little when it's too full, filling it when it's too empty, until humility becomes a steady habit, one rep, one drop at a time. These moments are easy to miss, but they shape humility, keeping your cup from being too full of certainty to see room for growth, or too empty to share what you bring. That's why we train. Because humility is easy when the stakes are low, but when success tempts us to cling to certainty, it won't be our intentions that hold us. It'll be our habits. So keep noticing, keep leaving room in that cup, and keep growing.